Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm bringing you a quick video because I had the opportunity to go to the Swiss premiere of House of the Dragon episode 1. Here you can see I got this nice ticket. It was a pretty weird kind of thing. I saw on social media that the premiere here actually was open. You could just go to the theater an hour before it was airing and just on first come first serve basis they were giving away tickets. So yeah, I just went there, I got in, and I got to see the first episode. And yeah, it's been a few hours and I just wanted to react quickly and tell you my thoughts. It was very interesting going in there because this was the first time I ever went to such an event. There were a lot of people, it seemed like there were a lot of people who really enjoyed it. I also really enjoyed the episode. Yeah, I think there were certain things that I was expecting. I've read the book, so yeah, it was very promising to see how they implemented stuff from the book, and it was very cool to see how they're interpreting certain things that weren't in the book because the book obviously isn't as detailed as the Game of Thrones books were, so they have a lot of room to play around with how to interpret certain characters, how to interpret certain events. So I think the first episode it did a very good job of establishing the story, establishing all the characters, and establishing the character dynamics, I think, as well. Yeah, and it doesn't feel like any minute really was wasted at all. It all felt important, like from the start to finish. It did an amazing job to tell kind of new viewers what it's about, how it relates to Game of Thrones. And then, yeah, it goes right in, it introduces a lot of the main characters of the story. Obviously, it's just one episode, so they couldn't include a lot of info on all the characters, so they had to kind of set up the main story, and I think they did that very well. Overall, I think visually speaking, it looks amazing. Yeah, the CGI looked very good to me. Like, I think it actually looked better. Like, there were a lot of shots of the dragons that we already saw in the trailers, and I think they look better. Maybe that's just because it was on the big screen, so I was able to appreciate it more. But yeah, it definitely looked like the CGI looks good. Visually, just the scale of this thing is amazing. Like, it's really cool to see how far this franchise has come from the start of Game of Thrones, where we had similar scenes that looked rather small. Now they look really big. So yeah, that was cool to see. And in terms of story, I think they covered a lot of ground here, and that's something that I appreciate it, but I do feel like the pacing felt, I wouldn't say off. For my liking, it felt a bit fast because it covers a lot of ground, this episode, as I've said. Like, it's quite long, it's like 66 minutes, I think. And it manages to introduce the conflict, introduce all the characters. It sets up all the character dynamics, as I said, and then it also shifts the story quite a lot. Like, the plot moves quite quickly, which I was expecting. But also, I feel like at some points I wanted some scenes to breathe a bit more. But I get why they're doing it, because I think they want a lot of people to get hooked with this first episode. So they wanted to cover a lot of ground here and kind of show new viewers, okay, what is it about, before going into, yeah, maybe a bit more of a slower pace in the next two episodes. That's what I'm expecting, at least. Like, there were a lot of scenes where I felt like they were kind of going through them very quickly. Personally, I feel like this episode could have easily been two episodes. Like, if they let all these moments breathe, if they gave the dialogue scenes a bit more time, I think it could have been twice as long. But that's maybe just me, because I do like slower stories a bit. Like, I like dialogue heavy stuff, so maybe that was just me. Yeah, but I would say going into this episode, don't expect a lot of like 5-10 minute one-to-one dialogue scenes or anything like that. Rather, it's like we get dialogue scenes, we get a lot of plot moving scenes, and oftentimes we get like juxtaposed scenes where we are doing two scenes together and then we just go back and forth. So it kind of really helps to move the story forward without just focusing on one thing, which I enjoyed that. But I do feel like some of the scenes might have felt a bit more, yeah, they might have had a bit more impact if we just let them breathe for a few minutes. Yeah, but again, that's something, it's a bit weird with this story because the first season is going to cover a lot of time, so they kind of have to move the story, so I get it. There's just some scenes where I was like, I wish that could have gone longer, but I would rather have this problem than the opposite problem. I would rather that I was like, okay, I wanted more, rather than being like, okay, this just dragged on too long. So yeah, I think for most people this won't be an issue. It was just something I personally felt like the pacing could have been a bit slower. Like if this was an 80, 90-minute episode, I would have been fine. Like I would be like, okay, that's cool. Like you could do the exact same scenes just longer, and I would be more happy. But maybe that's just me being greedy. Yeah, other than that, I think, yeah, the story itself, like if you're not familiar with the story this is going to cover, I think you won't have a lot of problems there. They do a good job in the first few minutes to kind of introduce you to the story and introduce you to the conflict. So I think if you've only seen Game of Thrones, and even if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, like if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, the thing is you may be a bit lost in the world. So that may be something that you might be missing, but I don't think it's a big issue. So I think for people who've seen Game of Thrones but don't know what this is, they will introduce it to you. It will be clear at the start of the episode what we're doing. For people who haven't seen Game of Thrones, it might be a bit harder, but I don't think you're going to be lost or anything like that. Yeah, and in terms of focus of the story, one thing I really enjoyed is that this wasn't super dragon heavy. Now, one thing that I was worried about is that because we have a lot of dragons in the show, that they're going to make this look like a big spectacle to kind of, yeah, get all the mainstream audience in. And I really like that they focus more on the actual emotional part of the story, the actual character conflicts, the actual relationships, rather than just giving us a lot of like dragon scenes. So yeah, it was quite interesting because I think the dragon scenes we got here were not super long. We saw them, they were introduced. Yeah, but I think if you're going into this first episode expecting to see every dragon that's going to be on the show, that's not going to happen. You won't see a lot of new dragons. The dragons you've seen in the trailers are the ones that you're going to see here. Um, yeah, so this is just a short reaction video. I don't want to spoil too much, obviously, because this is airing on Sunday. But yeah, overall, I'm super happy with this. As a fan of the story myself, I obviously have very high hopes and high expectations. So yeah, I would overall give this episode, let's say, a 9 out of 10. It could get higher, as I said, like if there was more breathing room for this, it would have been interesting. But I think they have set up the story well enough that in the next few episodes they can do that stuff and really work with these characters a bit more and let the dialogue breathe a bit more. But yeah, in terms of standouts for me, I thought everybody, like all the actors, were really good. Like I didn't have anybody who was like a negative, like where I'm like, okay, I'm worried about their performance. Like I think everybody who got a significant amount of time did, yeah, performed really well. So yeah, what I would say is that the heart of this particular episode for me are the is the Viserys, Emma, Rhaenyra family. I think every scene that those three were in was amazing. It was really nice to see that whole family set up. Um, yeah, I think that was done amazing, and I loved all scenes where those three were together, or like two of those three were together. So yeah, that's one. That's what my highlight was personally. But yeah, also Otto Hightower, Daemon Targaryen, their relationship was great. I also really liked Alicent and how they introduced like her relationship with Rhaenyra. Yeah, and other than that, I also enjoyed Corlys and Rhaenys, but they didn't get so much focus in this episode, so I assume we're going to see them more in the next two episodes. Um, yeah, but overall, I think it was great. It was a great way to reintroduce people to this world and introduce them to this story, to this set of characters, and I think a lot of people will. I'm interested to see what people will think after Sunday because I think it does feel like it did feel special, let's say, because also the people around me, like everybody, like in the cinema, it felt like everybody was super tense and super into the story. Like there weren't a lot of people like murmuring or something in between. Like it was super silent. Everybody was super into it. People, like, sometimes it was interesting because there were some lighthearted moments and people were laughing. People were actually, yeah, at a few points gasping and stuff. So I think it was very nice to be like in a crowd to see how people react. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to see how people will react online. There are certain things that I didn't expect. There are certain decisions that the showrunners made where I'm like, I'm not sure if I would have made the same decisions. I might have chosen to go a separate direction, but more to that when we can talk spoilers. So the way I'm planning to do this, so this is just an immediate reaction video that I'll post as soon as possible, and then I'm going to watch this again on Sunday with everybody else, and then I'm going to put out an actual review where we talk about the plot and all the scenes, and then I will also go more in more detail about what exactly my issues were. And if you have not seen, there is a video on my channel where I had a discussion with Jake Bishop about our expectations for the show, and we discussed there that we're going to do discussions for the show. So please subscribe to my channel, subscribe to his channel. We will probably be alternating between the channels to talk about the show. So yeah, so now the schedule will be Sunday. The episode will come out on Monday. Probably I'll put out a review on my channel, and then hopefully Tuesday or Wednesday we'll have that discussion with Jake. Yeah, I'm super hyped. I'm really looking forward to see the episode again. Actually, like I already want to rewatch it because I want to go through it again and see what some scenes I feel like I will need to rewatch again to really judge it. And yeah, I really want to put my headphones on next time and listen to the music, because I can only say there were two scenes where the music really stood out for me. That's one at the very start, basically after the cold open, then the first scene, that there the music stood out, and then at the very end the music stood out. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to go through the music as well, because I think the music, Ramin Djawadi is a genius with music. So yeah, that's something I'm really looking forward to explore as well. But yeah, so that's all I want to talk about right now. If you have any questions, mostly spoiler free, let me know in the comments down below. Yeah, I'll try to answer them. I'm not trying to spoil, so yeah, there isn't a lot that I can say if you want to know specific things. But if you have general like experience related questions, I'll gladly answer them. And the last thing I want to mention is there was a very nice teaser at the end for what's to come in the whole season, and that's got me hyped. There were a lot of scenes that we've seen in the trailers already, but there were some scenes that are completely new, and I'm like, oh, they will be interesting. So I think the show will probably be very good. As I mentioned, for me personally, I just hope that the pacing slows down a bit in the next few episodes. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have any complaints. Yeah, so that's all from my side. I hope you liked it. As I said, if you have any questions, leave a comment and I'll answer them. And that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.